Good evening, class, and welcome to another grammar lesson with Mr. George. Tonight we're looking at objects, both direct and indirect. I'm going to go over a couple rules and guidelines here, some things that could help you out, and then we'll get into the lesson. So, what we've previously covered, if you're looking at your Holt handbook, we had subjects on page 44, the predicate on 45, complements on 55, and subject complements on 57. Currently with objects, we are starting on page 59. Some items you may need to complete this assignment and video: internet connection. If you're already seeing this video, you're ahead of the game. Lined paper, I would advise this over using plain white paper. You want to make sure that your notes are nice and clean and straight so they're easy to read when you go back. Pencil, you don't want to use pen if you might be making some mistakes, and that's fine if you make mistakes, but you don't want to be scribbling things out. It just makes your notes look sloppy and it's harder to read. This will take about 20 minutes to complete everything. There will be points in this video where you do get to stop the video, and then you get to do activities on your own, and then you'll start and get the answers. So it'll take about 20 minutes, but that is dependent on your ability and your speed. You can use the Holt handbook as needed, and also remember, when you are done taking these notes, put it with your folder, binder, or your laptop. You need to bring this to class to get credit for it. I want you to get the credit. That's why you're doing this. So here we go. One more thing. Some directions for the assignment. I know you've already taken notes for me, but just reminders. You are expected to copy all headers and info, indent your information below the headers. That does make it easier for you to go back and find certain sections of your notes. In the case of any bolding, which I don't use too much in here, if at all, put a box around the word. Other than that, copy everything as is. You do use a lot of underlining, but the bolding is the only real difference. Copy at least one of the examples given. I suggest that you do all of them, because when you go back and you need help with something, it's better to have more examples. And then you can complete all of the assignments that I include here and bring that to class. So here we go. We're going to start with objects. So what are objects? That's your first header. Objects are complements that do not refer to the subject. They follow transitive verbs. Now, we've already covered transitive verbs, so I'm just throwing this in here as a reminder. A transitive verb expresses an action directed toward a person, place, or thing. Now, I'm going to go pretty quickly through this, but at any time you need to copy anything down, feel free to pause the video. So some object examples. Tiger Woods sank the putt. He sank what? Putt. Another example. Bryce Harper hit a home run. What was hit? Home run. Now, these examples are a little bit different from your book. I actually used this textbook when I went to Northampton, so I updated a couple of the examples. I hope you don't mind. So now we're getting into direct objects. So you want to draw a line right after the object notes there with the examples, and then start fresh with direct objects. Now you don't need to start a new page, but it helps you to break it up. So what is a direct object? A direct object is a noun, pronoun, or word group that tells who or what receives the action of a verb or shows the result of the action. So, a direct object answers the question whom or what after a transitive verb. Some direct object examples. Germs cause illness. Germs cause what? Illness. So illness is the direct object. Illness shows the result of the action of the verb. And your other example, Casey visited me. Casey visited whom? Me. Me is the direct object. Me receives the action of the verb. So try two on your own. Identify the direct object here, and then pause the video while you're doing it. Once you're finished, you can start the video again, and I'll show you the answers. So here we go with the answers. What a scary movie we saw. We saw what? Movie. So movie in this case is the direct object. You don't want to go and include the adjective that it was a scary movie. You just saw the movie. They were taking whatever was left. They were taking what? Whatever was left. Whatever was left is the direct object. Now remember that when you're looking at a direct object, it can be a word group. Okay, so that's why whatever was left is appropriate here. Now to indirect objects. What is an indirect object? An indirect object is a noun, pronoun, or word group that often appears in sentences containing direct object. An indirect object tells to whom or to what the action of a transitive verb is done. So some examples here. We have Natalie knitted her friend a sweater. Natalie knitted a sweater for whom? Her friend. Friend is the indirect object. Sweater would be your direct object. My little sister sang me a song. My little sister sang a song to whom? To me. Me is the indirect object. What was sung? A song. That would be your direct object. So now I'm just including a little bit of what to look out for, what may confuse you. If the word to or for is used, the noun or pronoun following it is part of a prepositional phrase and not an indirect object. Now we covered prepositions way earlier in the year, so we will do a refresher in class. But here's the same sentence, almost. It's the same understanding. But class is being used in two different ways. In one way, it's the object of a preposition, and in one way, it's an indirect object. So, the first one, my teacher showed the bird's nest to the class. This way, because of to, and it's to the class, it's part of a prepositional phrase, and it's not the indirect object. But in the second example, it is used as an indirect object. The teacher showed the class the bird's nest. I know it may be difficult to see this first time around, but we are going to practice it, like I said. So let's try to on your own. Identify the indirect object. Just pause the video, and then when you're finished, you can unpause it, and I will go over the answers. So Uncle Gene sends whoever requests it a pamphlet on earthworms. Uncle Gene sends a pamphlet on earthworms to whom? Whoever requests it. Whoever requests it is the IO, or indirect object. The team accepts anybody that shows up for roster spots. The team accepts roster spots for whom? Anybody that shows up. Anybody that shows up is the IO. So some practice here. Identify the direct objects in these 5 sentences. When you're doing this, pause the video. You can work on all 5. Just identify the direct objects and then unpause the video and you can check your work. So here are the answers to the apply your skills. We have in the first sentence, facts, the second sentence, library, the third sentence, collection, the fourth sentence, libraries, and the fifth, all. And your assignment for tomorrow's class. So I want you to do this as soon as you are done watching this video. Your assignment is to complete and bring to class these identifications of direct objects and indirect objects in each sentence. So you go to page 61 in your blue Holt grammar book and you do questions 1 through 10 of the oral practice. Now I know it says oral practice, but I want you to write them down on a separate piece of paper from your notes. So follow the format below. First, you put down the number of the sentence, and then you put a line for DO, or the direct object, and leave a space. Then you skip a line, and you go IO, and you leave a space. That's how you're going to differentiate which answer goes with which. And for questions, if you have any questions, write them down and bring them to class. Check the blue grammar book for further explanation. If you have an emergency question, email me at georges@nastschools.org. And here's a citation for the textbook in case you want to look it up, but you should have your own copy at home. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you get all of your work done, and be sure to bring it into class with you. You want to get the credit. Good night.